We build our most critical computing systems on an architectural illusion, the belief that our code is untethered from the machine that runs it. This is the dualist fallacy. It is the engineering assumption that a system's semantic intent, the rules, the logic, the mathematical weights of an AI, can exist entirely independently of the physical silicon access patterns executing them. This split traces back to Alan Turing and the invention of computing. By proving that logic could be separated from its physical mechanism, engineers learned to treat hardware as a blank, obedient canvas. Today, that assumption has trapped the AI industry in a paradox. When trying to ensure a massive neural network behaves safely, the standard approach is to build another piece of software to monitor it. We are trying to verify a Turing-complete system using another Turing-complete system. This continuous loop of software auditing software generates an infinite, unresolvable trust debt. Because the monitor and the model share the exact same failure domain, any vulnerability in the underlying environment compromises both simultaneously. To secure these systems, a model's intent must be locked to absolute physical positioning. To understand why software-only compliance fails, we have to look outside of computer science entirely and examine a catastrophic failure in physical chemistry. In 1996, the HIV drug Ritonavir was a medical breakthrough. Every batch leaving the production lines had a mathematically flawless chemical formula. Every atom was perfectly accounted for. Then, without warning, the global production lines collapsed. The liquid capsules began turning cloudy, and the drug refused to dissolve. Researchers discovered conformational polymorphism. The drug molecules had identical chemical compositions, but spontaneously folded into a different spatial geometry. Obeying a thermodynamic pull, this new layout, Form 2, was a lower energy, stable state. The substrate found a deeper trough to rest in. Because it could no longer dissolve, the therapeutic value of the drug was destroyed. Its semantic meaning was erased, even though the chemical code remained perfectly intact. The semantic meaning of any system is entirely conditional. It means nothing if the underlying substrate can silently overwrite it by seeking a more stable physical geometry. The speed at which this failure spread across global facilities shocked the researchers. It did not behave like a standard software bug, which accumulates errors gradually. Instead, a single microscopic crystal of Form 2 acted as a powerful nucleation site right on the factory floor. This is a multiplicative cascade. The new physical state acts as an independent factor that forces all surrounding elements to conform to its geometry. The engineers failed to detect this drift because of where they were looking. They were relying on dissolution tests on the finished capsules at the very end of the production line. Those tests are lagging indicators. By the time a capsule fails to dissolve, the physical environment has already transitioned. To stop a cascade, you have to measure the real-time structural geometry of the substrate as it executes. Relying on output tests or semantic logs to catch systemic drift guarantees that you will only detect the failure long after the environment is permanently compromised. The transition from chemical vats to silicon architectures begins with a simple truth. Execution is a physical event. When a model runs, it is electricity moving through gates, subject to thermal states and microscopic voltage fluctuations. The industry tries to manage this by using OS kernels to run software validation layers on top of large language models. But a Turing-complete monitor cannot definitively audit another program when both execute on the exact same physical substrate. Physical drift caused by thermal noise distorts the monitor and model in unison. This creates an epistemological blindfold. We are trying to measure text outputs and logs, while the physical reality of the machine is sliding toward an unmonitored state. Software-only compliance is a thermodynamic trap. It offers the illusion of safety while remaining blind to the inevitable physical drift of the hardware. To break this cycle, software verification must yield to the uncompromising rules of physics. This requires a unity principle, S equals P equals H. This means the semantic intent, the physical memory layout, and the hardware access patterns must be mathematically identical. Achieving this separation requires a root of trust that is not programmable. This root must be built directly as combinational logic inside the hardware's cache controller. It is a rigid physical barrier, not a flexible program. By sitting at the lowest possible level, This circuit establishes unforgeable proof of functional role continuity. If the AI model's execution pattern attempts to drift, if the physical gates fire in a way that doesn't match the authorized layout, the cache controller detects the mismatch instantly. The hardware then executes a literal physical lock. It doesn't ask for permission, it halts the execution pathway. True alignment requires the hardware to physically halt execution. It is the only way to ensure that physics, not software, is enforcing the compliance check. These engineering requirements are moving into the market through inescapable financial and regulatory pressures. We see this first in the capital thermodynamic cycle. Currently, the insurance market has a total coverage gap for AI liability. Carriers cannot price the risk of model drift because software-only safety is a mathematically unquantifiable ghost. Capital requires a rigid geometric coordinate, the hardware halt, to finally attach a premium and underwrite these systems. This financial demand will be accelerated by the first wave of regulatory enforcement under Article 43 of the EU AI Act. When the first software-only audit critically fails, it will trigger a liability ratchet. Notified bodies, fearing legal exposure, will begin preemptively demanding hardware-level evidence for all future certifications. As insurers then begin pricing hardware-verified deployments 40 to 70% lower than software-only competitors, global procurement will follow the money. The market will snap to the highest available physical proof, making hardware verification the global floor. The AI alignment problem is a symptom of our own dualist hubris. We have spent decades believing we could dictate the behavior of a physical machine using only symbolic code and software logs. Real governance requires us to move past the illusion of pure software. Semantic intent only genuinely exists when it is mathematically bound to the physical reality of the silicon. The future of this industry belongs to those who control the non-Turing-complete hardware root of trust. Because in a world of physical drift, only physics can enforce the check.